It's 6 o'clock. We will reconvene the Board of Supervisors meeting and the public hearing for the 2024 budget. The procedure we're going to follow is that we're going to have staff make a presentation such that everybody will hear the whole story and know exactly what the issues are behind the creation of this budget, such that if you come up and talk now and bring up questions, some of them might be answered or might raise other questions that you're going to want to do it later. So we'll have the public input right after the presentation by staff.
And Mr. Chairman, if you may want to, number one, open the public hearing and also confirm for the record from your district manager that the publications have been properly placed in the newspaper and the mailed notices have been properly and timely sent out.
Yeah, we will open the public hearing. And Chelsea, have we got proper notification, all the publications on record?
Yes.
We said.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Do you want to start or do you want to have Steve?
Well, I'd like to introduce Laura and let her speak, just kind of giving a little history, and then we'll turn it over to Stephen.
Okay, Laura.
Sure. I just give a really brief history of how we got where we are today. We started with the budget back in April, and it first appeared on the board agenda workshop on the 16th of May. The high water mark was set on the 15th of June. That's the approved budget. Since the 16th of May, we have had the budget on every agenda. So there's been 7 agendas, and we had 3 workshops to get to the agendas. The input for the budget came from staff. It came from PPAC, the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee, all of their subcommittees. So the Safety and Security Work Group, the Landscape Work Group, and the Ponds Work Group all submitted their budget numbers. KW, which is the management company for Pelican Preserve, also submitted a budget. The PRAC, the Parks and Recs Committee, they submitted a budget. We got input from Stony Brook, from their board as well as their community for the budget. And obviously staff was very involved. The board has been very involved. And then we took comments from the public based on the meetings that we had where we had public comment for people to give feedback and made changes to the budget accordingly. So that's kind of how we got here. And here we are today.
And we're presenting version 4.
This is version 4, yes.
Version 4.
Yes. And I think, Stephen, you have some changes you have what changed between the approved to now? I have this, I'm going to pop the slides up right now. And we have our controller, I think that's your official title with us. Stephen Bloom is here from Infomark, and he is the man who produces the tables. He and I work together to communicate the information. I get that to him, and he's the one who gets the budget put together and for us to publish, and they take care of creating the tax roll that goes to the assessor for the items on your tax bill as well.
With that?
And with that, I'll turn it over to Stephen.
Okay, thank you. So we do have some slides. Again, this is the second time we've done these slides. We've updated them now for version 4. We'll have an executive summary, and then we'll kind of go through each of the funds, talk about some of the changes, if there were changes, and then kind of top level, what does that mean in terms of assessments? We'll kind of get through this. We'll also talk about capital, and then we'll end up kind of talking about reserves, kind of giving you an idea. So starting up here with the executive summary. So similar to all of the versions, this final version, version 4, has a net increase of 9 positions. Overall, through all of the funds across the entire district, the wages are increasing by about $683,000, or about 43%.
You're good. I just turned your mic
Oh,
on.
okay, sorry. So, kind of looking at the spending. This is kind of comparing your amended budget. That's the first column. I'm sorry. This compares your version 4 against the amended budget. So you got version 4 column, then you have the increase. That means went up or down, and then the percent increase. And you can see for like general fund, the budget for next year is 4.76 million. That's about a $318,000 increase, or 7.2%. And you can kind of see going through here, Pelican Preserve about 3.3 million, or it's pretty flat, about only $30,000 increase, 0.9%. Stony Brook is actually going down compared to your amended budget. You can see there about 37%. Enterprise is going up by about $1 million. And then the next three are your capital. You've got the general fund capital, which is a little bit over 7 million. Enterprise capital is a little bit under 8 million. And then Pelican Preserve, this year we've kind of split that out so you can see it separate, about 1.1 million. And those are kind of, again, this is top level. So that's your spending. What does that mean in terms of assessments? And that's kind of the next chart you see there. So we start with Gateway Area 1 and 2, single family. And again, it's the same thing as above. We were showing you what is your assessment, what's the change, and what's the percentage change. Now keep in mind that this is each of these numbers are your total annual number. So for example, single family, area 1 and 2, it's $950.86. That's what you would get if you were assessed in that area. The change is $144.73, or about 18%. In Gateway 1 and 2, if you're in multifamily, it's $764, which is a change of increase of $132.06, or 21%. Now the next grouping is Pelican Preserve, single family $989.20, or about $27 and 2.8%. And you can see multifamily is the same way in terms of the percentage. It's $1,125.29. Now we do have some additional tables on assessments. It's obviously very important. When you go to the next chart here.
I think sorry to interrupt you, I think it's important to point out though that the enterprise fund does not go on the tax bill. That's what's funded by your water bill.
That's correct, yep. So this one shows you area 1 and 2 and gives you not only the total, which kind of lines up with what we talked about. It shows you commercial, golf course. It also shows you the Stony Brook piece of it. And in addition, not only are we showing you the general fund side, but also the lake bank restoration debt service is included in that. And you can see that's $127.88 of the total. Again, that's not an addition. What we just talked about, for example, $950.86 is the total amount. This chart just kind of breaks it down, gives you a little bit more flavor as to how that splits out. The next chart does the same, except this is for Pelican Preserve. And again, you can see the 2024. That's the column in green. The next column to the right of that is what it is this year in your 2023 number. And now you can see the difference in the percentage change. And this also, it kind of blows this up and shows you not only single family, multifamily, golf course, outside. It just kind of gives you really the total. And this is everything that was, both has been in the budget as well as, was published in the notice and the ad. It's the same information. Again, when you look at this, the bottom table there, your single family or multifamily, that's a nice summary for you to be able to see. And it's a 2.8% change. Okay, so one of the things we did in the last slideshow, and we kind of kept it in here, we talked quite a bit about capital and spending and how much are you using in reserves versus how much is in your assessments. And one of the things we wanted to show is kind of some other scenarios for you. So what this means is that if for every $1.3 million of spending, what would it look like to assess 50% of that, 75% of that, or even 100% of that? So that means if you were to assess $1.3 million for a single family, it would be an additional $262.42. And you can kind of see the breakdown. It was just kind of in case of some kind of a reference chart for different discussions as we were talking about it. Again, these charts were kind of what we provided the last time, and it shows you kind of the incremental amount. Okay.
Steve, why are you doing that just briefly? To confirm that this proposed budget version 4 was also posted on the district website.
Correct, yes.
And when was the date that it was posted?
Last Friday, the 11th.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, so now that we've talked about the summary, we do have a little bit more details to give you some more information on what's in the budget and kind of what's changed. Starting with the staffing plan, there has not been a change in the plan since the very beginning of basically what the approved version of the budget You can see again the change year over year in the different departments and the growth. And as mentioned earlier, about $683,000 of additional. And again, that includes the enterprise fund. So some of these numbers we're talking about everything with all of the district. It's not just like in the general fund or one other. Of note here, as we've talked about before, the merit increases are in a separate budget item. They are included in each of the departments. If you wanted to look at them individually, you certainly could. Some more, again, just kind of giving you some more historical information as to where the staffing plan is versus, now versus maybe what I have at 2020 and kind of the growth from there and where the growth is. So now we're going to get even more detail down into by fund. So when you look at, and I've tried to kind of show where the version 4 lines up or does not line up with the approved version. So you can see the general fund, really no change in terms of the gross assessments. And then some more details for you. It does include a $279,000 transfer. That's for future capital spending. Again, we always want to put a little bit away for the future to make sure you've got some money for other projects. This budget is completely balanced, which means you are not using cash reserves for next year to fund your spending. We did remove, there was a transfer in from the enterprise fund. We took that out. And again, in kind of the spirit of showing trends, you can kind of see at the bottom there where the assessments have been over the course of the last 5 years. Kind of moving on now, this shows you just spending. So we've talked about assessments. So here is the general fund version 4, kind of looking year over year. Where is the big spending increases or decreases? I mean, it's kind of shows you both. Obviously, the big piece of it is payroll, about $426,000 in payroll. Then you can see landscaping, and we tried to provide some notes for you. It's important to note there the interest payment for the short-term loan was paid off, and that interest obviously is coming out. And then waterway management services, you can see, is going down by about $278,000. Again, it doesn't cover every question in the general fund. It gives you a kind of a synopsis of what was going on. Now, we talk about the general fund and assessments. One of the things we, have, and we started a couple of years ago, is your assessments are kind of established based on different categories. Roadways, water management, and then the third, which kind of groups admin, parks, and recs. So similar to what we're talking about trends, we're looking at to see how those different categories have changed over time. And what that means is everyone's assessments, kind of each of these pieces has a methodology to it. And so it's important to kind of track and keep an eye on where they're going. And then again, overall, you can see the totals kind of still line up. Okay. So now we're going into, again, Pelican Preserve version 4, an increase of about $142,000. Net increase in expenditures, only about $30K. And then similar to what we did with the general fund, you can kind of see where the increases are or the offset. It's important to note that a lot of these increases are offset by removal of parts of the HOA agreement budget. And then again, the net is only $30K in terms of an increase. And similar to what we did, we'd like to show the trends down below, and you can see since 2021 and kind of year over year for you. The next fund is the Stony Brook Fund. This one has a decrease. This one has a decrease of about $171,000. The per unit amount decrease is about 31%. And then in terms of expenditures, again, decrease kind of across the board, 220,000. And we've also tried to show you where that decrease was, and in terms of the overall department. The biggest piece is in landscaping services. You can see compared to the amended budget, about $238,000 a decrease, and then you got roadway, public safety, kind of going from there. Really, the only one significant increase is in reserves, and again, reserves are important because that's talking about the future capital, and it's important to have reserves and to be building your reserves each year, even if it's a little bit. Again, we've got the trend for you at the bottom. The trend shows you the expenditures per year and then the per unit assessment amount per year. Utility fund, and again, as mentioned earlier, utility fund is done through your billing, utility billing. It's not in the assessments. It won't be showing up on your property tax bill. But it's important to kind of, obviously we budget for it and we want to talk about some of the changes. Overall, you got a net increase of a little bit over $1 million. Part of that, as mentioned here, is the state revolving loan design piece. So now that's starting up with principal and interest payments. Also a reserve program, again, extremely important for a utility to have reserves. Capital, again, putting back into the infrastructure, maintaining your infrastructure. We also included an 8% increase for the bulk water purchases, and that's offset by revenue. Oh, and reduced the bulk wastewater purchases in there too. Debt service. So this is kind of FYI for kind of the future as well as this year. The new bond series, which is 2023-1 and 2023-2, there's no assessments for that in fiscal year 2024. When the bond was issued, all of those, the capital, the interest was already included in there in terms of making sure that it's covered.
That's for 1 year.
That's for 1 year.
1 year.
So fiscal year 2025, you will see the first time, debt service payments for those. It's, again, we'll obviously keep mentioning it, and again, when we do the next budget, it'll be a big part of what we talked about is what that means to assessments. Other than that, the Series 2013 for Pelican Preserve has about $1.63 million outstanding. And then the Lake Bank restoration bonds, obviously that is a key piece of what's already included. I mean, that's in your assessments right now. And then leading to that, so Lake Bank, here's where we are. Gross assessments year-over-year increase, about $193,000. As a reminder on the Lake Bank restoration, both the fund and the debt service, we only assess what has been the loans that have been established. In other words, we are not assessing for future stuff. As the loans are established, that next year is the first time it'll come up. So there won't be any extra. It's just whatever is principal and interest that's due. That's what goes into your assessments.
Which means money that we spent.
I'm sorry? Money that's been spent. Oh, absolutely.
Money that we spent.
And not only that, it means you always get a grace period from the time you spend it to when, they're really good about that in terms of the amortization. So you always have a little bit more time before you have to start paying it. So for this year, we're talking about an increase of about $30.38. It's going from $97.50, which is what's on your current year, to $127.88. Your outstanding principal balance now, all in, is a little bit over $12 million. Your annual principal and interest payments is about $772,000. Included in that is required to have a reserve to cover it. Every year when we budget this, we put in about $3.6 million. That's for future. And you can see at the bottom of that your trend year over year, starting in 2020 when it was at $79.18. Okay, so here is your capital improvement plan. We're providing what amounts to a 6-year plan. You can kind of see exactly the categories that it will be spent on. The budget document, by the way, has all of this broken out even further. If you're looking to see project by project, purchase by purchase, it's all in there for you for every year. Keeping in mind that obviously there was a Series 2023 bond issued, so there's money that will be spent, and that's all kind of included in here. Next chart has both Stony Brook and Enterprise as well. And then the last piece is your reserves. And it's last, but certainly not the least in terms of importance. We're showing you here both what your current reserves are, as well as the other available funds that could be or may be used for different things. Again, the general fund is got about 3.7, and the enterprise is about 2.6 in terms of other available funds. Within the enterprise fund, again, there's an infrastructure expansion reserve that's built off of connection fees, and then a maintenance reserve, and all of this stuff kind of feeds into rate studies and is just vital kind of when you look towards the future of, all of the funds, but in particular your utility fund.
So essentially half of this on the reserve balances is under the property tax. The other half is under the utilities.
That's correct. Roughly. And that covers kind of the top, overview of where the budget's at.
And this is the third year under the new assessment methodology? Fourth year under the.
No, it was 2020. I think it was 2020 is when it was adopted.
I think it's a third.
I thought it was third,
I
but
thought we did 21, 22, 23. It was the first year I was here. 20, so we would have done it.
But that would have been for 2021 would have been the first. Then.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
1,
Yeah,
2,
maybe
3,
it is.
4.
Yeah.
This is the
fourth year.
Yeah.
What this boils down to is years ago, we had a system that was set up, it was based purely on stormwater related assessment. Now it's based upon the things that
Three
Steve
categories.
pointed out, the roads, the stormwater management, and then parks, rec, and administration.
That's correct.
And each one of those then are divvied out into things like trip generation, all standard statistics for doing this type of work. That comes down and tries to make equality of comparing a single family home, let's say, versus a multifamily, or a small commercial lot versus a large commercial user. All those things factor out in this new assessment methodology. With that, anybody, staff have anything else? We'll just open it up for public input and start with comments.
If I may also briefly for the record, we have the overflow location. Is anyone at the overflow location?
No, nope, just Randy
Randy, a staff member is there in case anyone shows up.
and the pastor.
In the back. Thank you. Thank you.
Holding them down. Let's go on ahead and get started and call them up. If you would, come up front and give your name, where you're from, which community, and everybody's got 3 minutes, and enjoy. Come on up. Call them out.
First up is Margaret Feinberg.
And I'm going to Margaret Feinberg, Stony Brook Gateway, representing myself. The first one I'd like to bring up is and Joe McCulka did talk about it a little earlier. For Stony Brook, we'd just like to know what projects inside of Stony Brook are outside of the 001 fund that those two public works employees are coming into the community to do. If it's not water, sewer, irrigation, what are they doing that's considered public works? Then that's just like an answer to that question. And on page 56, and then I'll just say all these 56, 57, and 63. When we're talking about capital budget, capital improvement plan, the 267 is still there for budget year 2024. And I would have thought that would have come out of there.
Which page, Margaret?
First one is 56. Next one is 57 and then 63.
What are you calling out? Which?
Under the Stony Brook Fund on page 56, it
Yeah.
has for budget year 2024, 267,000 in capital projects. But I thought that was part of what was removed from our budget. In other words, where is that 267,000?
Or what is that allocated to?
Yes, right. Thank you.
You know
So
that
that makes it clear. And on page 57, it's got 228,000 for capital contribution current reserve, or Stony Brook Reserve contributions, 228,000 for budget year 2024. And I thought we had reduced that. And then on page 63, you've also got the 267,000 for capital improvement plan, Stony Brook Fund.
I don't see that 267 on page 21 or 22.
Not on page 21, right,
In the
exactly.
calculation,
It's not
it's not
in
there.
the, it's not, so why is it still in the capital improvement plan, I guess is my
So it's not being
question.
calculated,
I'm
but
sorry.
it's still, you're saying it's not being calculated, but it's still in the.
I think the issue is that. I'm
It's
spitballing here,
populated
but I
there,
think the
but
issue
where's
is
it coming from?
It's still real, it's just we didn't put it in. I think that's the answer.
I think,
No?
Stephen, it didn't get cleaned off the capital
Yeah,
improvement
no, I
plan.
think
It's
that's
not
as
in the
simple as
actual
that.
budget calculations, but it's still in
Yeah, I
the,
think it's just a
So
matter
it's
of,
not being calculated.
correct.
yeah, it
At
just
the same time, it hasn't been
So
removed.
it just needs to
The,
be.
the
Just needs to
tables,
be
the,
removed.
yeah, the tables are based off of the information that's further up in the budget.
And I just, that was my question, because I saw that, and I
Yeah.
looked for it in other places and couldn't find it, so.
Ed, would you like me to answer the question that Joe and Margaret both posed?
Go ahead.
And let me just make sure, if I summarize what Margaret and Joe are both asking, is what I've heard a couple times. We already pay into the 001. We're also paying in 004. How are those separated and delineated? I think we need to be very clear on that piece, because
Because Public Works is specific, and you think of it as being, the water, the sewer, the irrigation, pipes,
Perhaps I could, perhaps I could
Yeah, yeah,
answer.
and
Yeah,
the
but
lakes.
I
Lakes
think
would-
we've discussed the answer.
Yep, so there's a handful of projects I know that Stony Brook is currently working on. Again, per the O&M agreement, anything over $5,000 that is benefited directly to Stony Brook projects, the district staff have to handle. One of them is the asphalt restoration project that the board has requested to happen in next fiscal year. So we're working through that contract documents. And then I know Warren has been working with Andrew on wrapping up the Likens project, which then next we need to bring back the traffic engineer to certify those. Then we have to do interlocal agreements with the county and the sheriff so that the sheriff can come in and enforce in your community.
It's the street signs.
That's the street signs.
Okay.
So that, we're talking 104 hours for, 208 hours for 2 employees, which is essentially 2 weeks. And that's what we're projecting for next
And-
fiscal year.
And that makes it clear. Up until now, I haven't understood what was under those Public Works titles.
Yep.
So
It's-
I'm
it's-
assuming the street lighting probably.
Yes.
When we converted to the LEDs, that would,
Yep, that's coordination and communication to FPL and.
What's
and
the
signing-
dollar value of that?
it's $10,000 to the
it's
community.
actually $11,437 for the 2 employees. 5% of each of their total salaries.
That's the 208 hours, which is
Gotcha.
divided by 778. That's roughly $13 per resident.
$14.70, because I went with the total amount, which includes all of the insurance
Right. So
and matching and that.
give or
kind of
take
thing.
a couple dollars here and
But
there.
I think that explanation pretty well
Yes, that did.
sums it up.
That's the first time I've really had a clear understanding.
But
here's-
it doesn't have anything to do with utilities.
No,
No.
Nothing
No.
whatsoever to do
Those
with
are the
utilities.
sewers and irrigation, that's utility. That's not public works.
That's not public works.
ponds covers is under 001. These 2
Right.
positions and those tasks that are anticipated for next fiscal year are directly benefited to the Stony Brook community.
Yeah, your 001 handles stormwater like everybody else.
Right,
So
exactly.
for that deal, you're level with everybody. It's
Understand.
just the public works functions that are ours that are in your neighborhood.
Correct.
That's the difference.
And what I would encourage, being a
Just
Stony
wanna
Brook
make-
resident, is I know that in some cases, we project manage some of our own stuff in Stony Brook. So we have these hours. Let's make sure we're leveraging them, right? So,
Thank
They'll
you.
get more tired of hearing from us than they already are. Thank you.
thank you, Margaret.
All right, next is Angela Sullivan.
I'm gonna let Billy go first.
You devote, what do they call it? Devoted your time or
No.
delegating your time? Yielding your time from the gentleman to the right.
Is your
What
name
do you pick the biggest guy in the room to go
Dolan?
before you, Angela?
Okay, William Dolan.
Yeah, how you doing? I'm William Dolan. I live in Stony Brook.
12388 Jewel Stone Lane. I'm not up on all of the numbers as well as she is. She's very good. But this is my first meeting. You guys finally got my attention with this letter. When you said you wanted to raise my assessments by almost $2,000. All the numbers on here are different than what you just showed on the board. These numbers on here are a lot less. Keep talking about trends. The only trend I see is up. Everything goes up, 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 up. I mean, I'm sure you're all a bunch of smart people up here. Can't figure out ways to do the same things creatively for less. That would be refreshing. I mean, I think $75,000 to change a mulch is a little steep for me. $40,000 for the soccer field facade, that's a little heavy too. I played on dirt as a kid. And could you refresh me again on why I have to pay, what is a debt service assessment of $127.88?
That's the paying the principal and interest off on the bonds that are doing all the lake projects, the pond projects.
Okay. Now, if Stony Brook has a reserve of $317,000, why do I gotta pay the debt assessment?
Say it again.
If Stony Brook has a reserve of over $300,000, which was more on that chart, why can't they take the debt assessment out of that instead of having me pay it?
I don't know what he's talking about.
I guess that there might be a operation and maintenance assessment that is out there for the Stony Brook or for a resident, and there's funds that he wants to use that to pay the debt service assessment.
So you're just transferring funds?
I guess
is
that's what
you're
it sounds
doing,
like.
isn't it?
No, well, yeah, I mean, it's like I'm paying double. I'm paying for Stony Brook to have excess money in reserve, and I'm paying to pay off the debts too.
Well,
The debt, the
it's the
assessment.
same as the rest of the other HOAs in the community. We're doing the same thing.
Okay, that's very good. Wouldn't you rather pay a smaller HOA every year instead of have it go up? You know, I moved here from New York 7 years ago to get away from constantly higher rates, and I feel like New York followed me. I mean, every
I don't think it's
single
that
year
bad.
for 7 years, it's gone up, either CCD or HOA, it's up, 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 up.
Tornado warning.
All right. That's all I got to say, guys.
Thank
Just,
you.
I'd appreciate if you worked, instead of finding creative ways to spend money, find creative ways to save money. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Angela Sullivan is next.
Angela Sullivan, Stony Brook. We recently posted in July 10th, the Gateway Services Administration Building information that was sent out to the public. I don't know if I need to stop.
Do we have a safe room?
It's all north of us.
It's Cape Coral.
Just north of us.
Oh.
So I can continue?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to make some points that may have been either expressed through email or comments that were on social media, the voices of Stony Brook residents. The comments below are specifically, comment 1, stay where you are a few years and reduce our taxes. 3.6 million is not acceptable. Comment, cheaper to build up than out. Comment, when can we vote no on this project? Is there, and these are specifically for the new administration building, and specifically also the 3 monuments that the people were commenting on. Comments, when is there going to be a town hall meeting for the Gateway neighbors to attend concerning building office options and spending less? Comment, 5 board of supervisors are making major financial decisions in this time where we're trying to save money, and they're taxing 7,882 homeowners and businesses. We don't want this. Comment. Complete waste of money. No one spending on office buildings that are open from Monday through Friday, $6 million. Office spaces that only open from 8 to 4. Comment. Waiting to hear what is in the in the return on investments, question mark. Does it increase efficiency, question mark. Does it discuss our cost for making money and employment, making money financially or employment safety, question mark. Comment. In my career, this is a comment, if I could not state how the return on investment impacted environmentally, safety, or financially, I did not get the project. Comment. Why do we need a $3.6 million building that we could probably get for 1.5 if it was rebudgeted? Comment. Not in this economy. Your responsibility to Gateway residents is to be fiduciarily responsible. 3.6 million is not respectful to the homeowners that are on residents don't want. Comment. We are paying for this. How do we vote no? Comment. Operations and supply series is what we are supposed to do, not to take advantage of our power. How 5 people that are voting for the Board of Supervisors can do this when 99% don't want this. Comment. Other comments that I can't actually say out loud or posted. Another comment not needed within an economy that is breaking people and financially. Comment. Homeowners are still recovering from COVID. 2 direct hits of hurricanes. We're being hurt financially. 3 to 4 more 5 years down the road, we're still going to be affected. Like roof deductibles, $8,000 to $12,000. Homeowners insurance is going up.
Can you wrap it up now?
Is my time up?
Yeah.
Oh.
Is it just basically essentially a repeat of these same questions? I think the biggest answer to answer most of them is when do they ever come to our meetings?
They're at work paying all of their bills, and
Okay.
they're picking up their kids at 3 o'clock.
I understand.
Those
that.
where those people are.
There's other
So,
ways of communication.
and also, I'll actually stop at this point because I have a couple more comments. But they were actually waiting for what we were told. There was going to be a town hall meeting to bring this up. And now it's turned into only public hearings where these comments are actually being noticed.
I come to every meeting and I've never heard of a deal being a town hall
I
meeting.
listened to every one of
Never
these
mind.
meetings,
Yeah.
and I heard either Chelsea or Laura say that there was a town hall meeting that was going to be postponed. And I could have swore I heard Tony say, the attorney, that there needed to be a town hall meeting that would be in discussion of who's interested in promoting this building at 3.6 million.
I don't know where, like I said, I've been to every meeting. I've never heard of there being a town hall meeting. Public hearing, yes, but not a town hall meeting.
So
First of all, there is not a vote on this by the public. That's why you have 5 elected persons.
So 5 elected people make the decision of 7,708
Yeah.
people
Just
that
like-
might not be interested. I'm just curious.
Just
That's
like
the
you
same
have
thing
one-
that you represent Stony Brook, that you get
So-
elected in. You are the voice of
No,
Stony
I'm
Brook.
not. I'm just a homeowner. I am just an individual homeowner. I'm actually, the comments that I'm hearing
No, but
are
what I'm
also
saying is you
from
sit on the Stony
Gateway.
Brook board.
We're not going there.
No, no,
We're not trying to represent
No,
me as a board member.
I know, I'm saying,
didn't
you
understand.
are voted on the HOA board. You speak for Stony Brook. That's the way the process works. We are voted on this board to represent
The community.
the community. It's the same thing.
But the community is speaking, and I don't think you're actually hearing what the community has to say. You know, maybe you should be spending 1.5 million on a building. They're really saying no, absolutely no to a $3.6 million building. And they would say that if there was a town hall meeting to be able to come and represent that information. And all of these meetings that I've listened to, which I go to every one of these meetings, I am online for every one of these meetings. Today I had to show up because I really thought that there was going to be some type of representation from the homeowners to be able to respond. And it hasn't happened because this has just been drawn out for 3 or 4 more months without getting as much
Angela,
input.
Guys,
Just to-
can we just wrap it up?
So what I would say quickly is let's say we're saying 3.5, and that is debt financed over 20 years. That's the way our bond works. let's just say you have operation and maintenance in there, let's just put it at 5 million, over that time. If you take that, we debt finance for 20 years, and you divide that annually by the residents, you're looking at an impact probably maybe $20 to $30 annually per resident is really what's going to come out of the assessment pocket. So the reason I'm saying that is because, yeah, 3.5 million sounds like, I mean, it is a lot of money, but it's not hitting our residents in 1 year. That's why we debt finance these
I
things
don't
over
think
20
that's our
years.
point. I think the homeowners are not interested in your $3.6 million project. I think the homeowners think that you could replan this and go for a $1.2 million project.
We've looked at that.
We've
It
been
is-
And
working on
and
this
I did
for
hear you at
5
a previous
years.
meeting saying that it was only going to be
Okay.
$15 per
Wrap it
head.
up, please. Wrap it up.
$15 per head specifically, I
Yeah.
heard from you. When you compare that to a homeowner that's trying to pay $12,000, mine specifically, $12,000 in a deductible, plus your insurance, your homeowner's insurance just went up $1,500. So we're talking could be $15,000 to $20,000 per homeowner. So that $15 just on one project, it really does add up. And I just think it's disrespectful to the homeowners to think that we're all just going to keep dishing it out.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank you.
comments.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Kathy Flaherty. Reminder, 3 minutes.
I will keep it to 3 minutes. Hi, Kathleen Flaherty, Stony Brook. The first thing I'd like to ask Stephen, is there any, in last year's budget, the one that's going to end, will there be money left over? At this point in time, can you tell us if there's any money that's not going to be used and kind of be left over? Because every year so far, there always has been. So,
Yeah, I believe there will be. I can't tell you as of August 17th what that number is for several
Okay.
reasons. There's still projects going on. I don't want to throw a number out there and then things change.
okay.
But yeah, no, there's usually some money left over.
So we are favorable to plan.
We are favorable to plan is a great way of putting it.
Okay. Okay. And
That's a good question. Thank you.
Chelsea, thank you, because last meeting I had asked the same question about Stony Brook and the 5%, and I appreciate you answering it. Okay. My other thing is, we are paying for turf every year on the soccer field. Have we ever looked into AstroTurf for it?
Yeah, Steph has looked into a lot
Yeah.
of different options over there.
I was just,
No, that's a good point.
And we actually just got a quote today on it, so I'd be more than happy to share that later with you.
okay, thank you. All right. And my other thing is the 7.67% increase in salaries. Is that going to be equitable to every single employee, or are we just going to do it to some?
The majority of are you referring to the merit increases or just the overall
The,
increases? Because
Yeah.
what we did, if you,
because you didn't separate how much was going to be,
Net new
What
positions.
percent?
No.
Well, we do.
Right.
We have merit
Yeah.
and then we have just
But it's all in-
headcount increases.
it's all in one
So-
amount. Like you didn't say, well, we're going to have a salary increase of, just throw it out, 4.2%, and then the rest is merit increase. So I didn't see a difference. It's all
if you look at the
bundled.
current, but if you look at this year's current budget and then look at the proposed per position, you'll be able to see what that difference is. But what we did was probably, I think, two months ago, or when we set the high water mark, I literally spent a week looking at every single position and job description that this district has. And it was determined that we are drastically underpaying our staff for the positions that they're in. And so the majority of those, that 7.9, what the percent that you.
7.67.
7.67 is a market adjustment for truly mainly our hourly employees. We're
Okay,
pretty
so-
close with our salary.
Okay, so every hourly employee is going to get an increase. Is this,
Almost all of them, yes.
because I know there are certain ones that really do deserve it. And I just want to make sure they are. Okay, all right. Under 3 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, next up is David Ruth.
I just want to say for the record, if there are any issues with the weather outside, we do have a safe room inside this building. So it would be just through this door. God forbid, knock on wood, that we don't need it, but just so you know. Okay, I hope it stays.
It's in Cape Coral by my house.
sorry, dude.
They're freaking out a little bit.
I'm afraid. Could I go in there now?
Come on, let's go.
Hi, I'm Dave Ruth, and I live at 11359 Championship Drive. And I just have a few questions. It's nothing major, but I was here when we did the high water mark. And then in May, you guys, we came up with some numbers for that. And that was kind of exactly what it says, the high water. And trying to figure out, it's kind of everybody's wish list is the way I looked at it. And I thought part of the objective here was to figure out a way to put a budget together and get it to where it was within reason. Last year, I believe, and I'm going to talk specifically about my area, which is in the assessment summary area, was 1 and 2. Now, last year, we got this budget down, I think, to 9 point something %. And this year, when I first looked at it again, just today, it startled me because we're now at 18%. Well, it's almost doubled from last year. And when I looked in the budget review of June, we were at 13.22%, and it kind of went up. So I was kind of like going, I thought our objective would be to try to get it down as much as we could. So I was kind of like looking, I printed off the 60-some sheets of the entire budget and line item by line item and kind of went through it. Don't want to go through that again, but I'm trying to figure out why it went up from June until now. And I guess I'm just kind of looking for you guys to kind of give me a indication. It seems like we still have a lot of fat in this.
Well, we did the high water mark, what was that, the
June 15th.
June 15th meeting. That established the high water mark. It has not gone up since then. And in fact, it has come down. We made several changes. That was versions 2, 3, and 4 that got us to where we're at. So it has come down from the June 15th high water mark.
Well, what about the budget review, June 2023 says it's 13.22% for single family. And now it's 18%. That's why I'm like questioning.
You know what he's referring to?
No, I'm not sure.
I don't think that includes the debt assessment.
It might have been just O&M. I'm looking at the approved chart, June 15. The single-family general fund was $951.11. That's what was approved as the high water mark. Right now, it's $950.86, so it's gone down.
It has gone down.
Okay, well, I somewhere I printed off the
Yeah.
It could be that the Lake Bank.
budget review
Wasn't
June
included.
2023, and I'm still getting 13.22%, so. And
Was it
again,
that?
this was all part of the presentation that you did before. So I can
That's
show
what
you,
he's talking about. I found the page you're talking about.
I can show you mine.
This is version 2.
Version 2, okay.
Yeah. We got version 2, version 3, version 4. But in version 2, for that day, that's what the number was.
O&M, Mr. Shepherd?
This is it's called the fiscal year 2024 assessment chart, breakdown by fund.
Is that the
Version.
I'm
approved
pulling up
version,
the
though?
That's
approved.
version 1.
Oh,
June
version
1st.
1, yeah.
That's
So
was
we
before
have a
the
whole
date.
bunch of versions.
Version 2 is the
I
one that was
understand.
approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could have gone.
So it
I
went
thought-
up from version 1 to version 2, which was the high water mark, and it has changed now twice in versions 3 and 4 going down.
That's
not
prior
going
to
up.
the highway.
But version
This-
1 was
This is
dated
the high
June
water
the
mark
9th,
here.
June the 9th, 2023.
Okay,
You're absolutely correct.
and that was 13.22%.
At that time.
Okay,
But the approved was 17.98.
Right.
but now we're at 18%. I don't care what version. I'm
No, I
just saying,
understand.
Now we're at 18%. And I guess I was looking for, I didn't come July, okay, so I kept thinking I was gonna come back and it was gonna be a reduction rather than an increase.
Gotcha.
And, okay, so that's the one thing. The other one is on like page 3.
Yeah,
I-
try to wrap it up, Dave.
Okay, well, this was just a question. I'm looking at capital improvements plan, general fund on page 391, if you print it out
Total increase.
from the computer. And I see a bunch of projects. Are those projects for next year or the year after or whatever? They're not? they're not
As
projects.
you can
cover
see at
out
the
till
top,
2028.
yeah, they cover out to 2028.
29.
Yes, okay. But those things still have to be discussed, right? I mean, they're not,
They
haven't
are,
been
they
agreed
are,
upon.
let's put it this way, they are on the calendar, but they have not been approved yet.
okay, that's it. Thank you.
And that's something that is another one that we've never done before. We've had this year, for the first time, a true capital reserve study done for the whole community, the whole CDD. That gave us a lot more insight into what we need to be looking at over a long term. That's what caused a lot of this problem.
I do have a statement that was asked to be read into public record from Glenn Button. I understand he's here. Did you want me to read it, or did you want to read it?
If you'd like to, maybe summarize it, but also, I want to.
I can't hear anything.
I would suggest that since Mr. Button is here, that there's no need for us to read it. He can articulate what's in his
Okay.
letter, and we can just make his letter part of the record for today's
I just need
hearing.
it back.
Yep, I'll give it back.
I don't need your sheet.
The record will be part of, the letter will be part of the record for today's hearing.
So, Glenn Button, and I'm representing myself and my wife, Lisa Button, and, we live in Daniels Preserve. Now, I've been here since 2007. I'm sure some of you have been here just as long. And since I've lived here, there has been a non-ad valorem assessment increase for, I believe it's over 12 years now since I've lived there. I've lived there for 15 years, basically. Now, your revised number 4, how accurate is that, sir, that you showed up here? Because I took a picture of something that I kind of disagree with. And you put on here FY 2020 to FY 21, there was no increase. When I did my research and looked at all my assessment increases, I in fact did have an increase for a single family home. Now, in my letter, I talk about the separating of single family and multifamily. And yet I've seen posts, and I mentioned this last year, of people who live in multifamily homes that own 3 cars. I own 2 cars. They have more access to the roadways as far as I'm concerned. And then I also mentioned that due diligence is providing the most accurate information, and the assessment methodology that you keep saying is new data, it's actually old data. I wrote that in a letter last year and I provided the information to you. Now, it's not my responsibility to make the decisions for the community, it's yours, but I believe I did some due diligence in pulling up some of the research that was necessary to make a good, qualified decision by you guys to help save us some money. So, that's for you to deal with. Or, personally, I would not have accepted an assessment methodology that's using completely old data. Even Lee County, who I've talked to, said they require the most up-to-date data from the trip generation from the ITE's manual. And you all know what that is. Now, in this letter also, I talk about these different things that might be nice things to have, but I don't think everybody needs right at this time, especially with all the increases that are going on. I, for one, had to return to work on a part-time basis. I served the military in the Marine Corps and in the Coast Guard, and I might not look like it, but I have disabilities. So just to try and keep up and try to keep ahead, saving money is hard. It's not easy, and every penny counts. So I need you guys to do the best you can for us. I need you guys to work hard and save us whatever you can, because it does hurt us. It impacts everybody.
Can you wrap it up, please?
Yes, sir. And the last thing I want to note is the payroll adjustments. In the military, we got 30 days paid vacation, and usually 11 federal holidays. Here, they get 30 days paid vacation, and as I understand it, 13 days of holidays.
In the military, you didn't have to go out and fight and attract employees. We do. And we got to have competent employees to do the work.
I
And we have to
understand that,
compete, and our salaries are below the market, so that's why,
understand
that's
that,
the
sir.
reality that we're
but,
up against.
but many of those employees are not on a 24-hour work schedule.
I don't know that any
Well-
business is.
Military are,
That's apples and oranges.
okay?
That's apples and
So
oranges.
it is apples and oranges, okay, but at set approximately, based on what I saw here, the 9 positions, each position, unless my numbers are wrong, are approximately $75,000 a year. So, you know,
Well,
that's-
We understand what your deal is, and we've gone through those budgeting, and we're trying to get this community and the staff up to where we're competitive and we don't lose employees. We want to retain employees. Nobody wants to be without water, sewer, irrigation, roads, parks, recs, all the things we do. And you got to have staff to do that.
is Lee County not managing any of the roads?
No. Lee County has 2 roads in here, basically Gateway Boulevard and Griffin Drive.
And Griffin Drive?
Yeah.
So do they kick in anything?
No.
Nothing at all?
Just allow all the people from all over the county to come through our road here, and we have to live with it. Any other questions you have?
I just ask that you guys really take a look at that trip generation and look at the multifamily and single-family homes.
We'll bring that up with
Okay.
the guy. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm just going to ask Stephen quick, because there was a question about the no change from 20 to 21. I'm assuming it was just the O&M portion that didn't change. I'm guessing the debt service changed, which would have
Yeah,
caused
that's,
a
I
change
gotta
in the
go, I'm
overall
gonna pull them all
assessment.
and just double check it. 'Cause
Yeah. I do know that there was a year where they kept the O&M assessed portion of it the same, but
Right,
obviously,
this-
depending on the Lake Bank projects, the debt
Yeah.
assessment would have
and
changed.
it's a good point. This is just the general fund.
Right.
It would not cover any of the other pieces, but I think it's important to double check it since it was mentioned, so.
Okay, I have a 1-sentence thing to read in and a 1-page thing to read in. I don't think there's, let me make sure there's nobody on.
Are these from somebody calling in?
No, they're from people that emailed.
Okay.
That one that he just, Mr. Buttons was sent to you prior to the last board meeting. This one was sent to me between meetings today, and the other one came in at 4:29. So this is the first one. It's from David Nickerson, 12/553 Stone Valley Loop. According to a Moody's analytic data report broadcast on CNN last week, the typical American household is spending $709 per month more than they did 2 years ago to buy the same goods and services, according to Moody's Analytics. $709 more per month. That's $8,508 more per year for the same goods and services, such as food, gasoline, prescription drugs, health, auto and home insurance, electricity, rising HOA costs, and many other essentials. Even if inflation were to reduce to 0 today, those higher prices will remain what they are now. They won't go down. And everyone knows inflation is nowhere near 0, which means monthly increases in these essential costs are going to continue to rise from what prices are today. Nearly a quarter of Gateway residents are retirement eligible age and older. According to Lee County statistics, a full 2/3 of Gateway's households are households without children. Many of these residents are older seniors whose income simply will not come close to increasing at the levels that today's consumer prices are increasing. In addition, with the federal bank raising interest rates at alarming levels to combat this information, many seniors lucky enough to have any nest egg are seeing retirement portfolios being negatively affected by these interest rate increases. The financial instability we are experiencing now should be viewed by the board that now is not the time to responsibly construct a new building or increase staff and optional services. I wrote to each of the supervisors a month or so ago when the budget process began, imploring the Board of Supervisors to take these economic arguments into account when drafting this year's spending plan. I asked the board to stick to the essential services and take the necessary steps to ensure reliable delivery of potable, irrigation, and fire protection water service, reliable sewer infrastructure, safe roads, and other necessary and essential services. I also asked them to strongly consider making all funding for non-essential services, such as doggy areas, fun parks, soccer fields, swimming pool, and other amenities dependent upon 100% collection of user fees. In other words, to pay for themselves, or to simply stop providing them if the user community cannot or will not justify them with financial support. Neither my wife nor I own a pet. We have no need or desire to utilize a doggy park. We do not play soccer and have no need or desire to use the soccer fields. We have no need for a fun park, whatever that may be. Our community has our own pool and we have no need to utilize the Gateway facility. Shouldn't we have a say in paying for something we don't use that puts a financial burden on us? Why does the board insist that we include non-essential programs that would lose money if they were only funded by a minority of residents who use the amenities? Our CDD is needed to provide essential services even in uncertain economic times. However, with today's uncertainty, this year's budget absolutely needs to be pared down, prioritized, and reorganized. And rest assured, at least a full 25% of your resident population is facing the prospect of even more difficult economic times ahead, especially if you do not halt this unaffordable optional spending. Please consider the neighbor who can at least afford more and more costs forced on them for items not even fully supported through community use and or funded by user fees. Stop spending like we have it, or take it to the next level and freeze all future assessments for seniors who don't. And David Nickerson, 12553 Stone Valley Loop. And then there was one other email that came from Tim and Sandra Jackson. It simply says, if you were a business that I ran, I would remove the entire management staff. And that is all I have. I don't see any hands raised, and I believe Randy is still sitting over there by himself.
That it?
Yep, that's it.
Board member comments? Doug?
Well, if you want to close the public hearing now.
You want to close the public
Discussion on the
hearing?
board.
Okay, do we need a motion to close the public hearing?
So I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and second to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 4-0. Oh, you know, board member comments.
The only thing that I would say is a large portion of the increase to this year's budget is due to payroll, which is tough, I think, for a lot of people to look at. But if you look at the last 3 years, 4 years, there's been an annual increase of 20 to 30% on average of salaries, and that's across the U.S. The average percentage of payroll to operating costs is typically 20 to 50%. We're operating at 28%. So even though we have some, we've had increases up to this point, we're still operating below the average. And really what it boils down to is if we want to maintain a quality of standard, we have to have the right people to do the job. And so I know payroll increases is tough because but it's really the state of the economy that we're in and the business that we're doing. And not only has salaries increased that amount, they're starting to level off now over the past 6 months, but you're coming down from 20-30%. But the competition has gotten even tougher. So we're competing with the county, city, other municipalities, and it's really hard to find good people. So in order to attract and be an employer of choice, a community of choice, these are things that we have to do in order to stay competitive.
Hard to find and keep.
Well, and yes, and also in a smaller organization like ours, finding folks that have specialization in multiple areas, I think we do a really good job of adapting to our operating environment based on the talent that is available to us. But it's really hard to run a utility municipality in today's environment. So that's the only thing I'll say. I'm not trying to convince anyone, but the large portion of our increase has to do with payroll, and we're just trying to operate under the environment that we're forced to operate in. So that's it for me.
Bob?
Well, I'm very sympathetic to the sentiments that were expressed here tonight, particularly for savings and everything else. We've had some very costly projects that we had to undertake, like the Lake Bank projects, and building up reserves that were woefully inadequate for years due to what's called mismanagement by prior boards. I'm particularly sensitive to the last comments about not using the dog park and the soccer fields, and and I'm I'm totally sympathetic that, I mean, I haven't had kids in school for 40 years and I'm still paying my school taxes and education taxes. I don't like them, but I support them. But overall, I realize the effort that's gone through, and a lot of people don't see it, particularly if they're not in the meetings, to keep our costs down. And believe it or not, that is a priority. The new building is, you know, pay me now or pay me later. But we're very inefficient the way we're operating right now. And when I look at it, as Ed was talking about, the $27 per year per person, per family, you know, it's not a bargain, but real estate 10 years from now is going to be a hell of a lot more expensive than it is today. And the only wish we all had is that we had started this 3 years ago. And it would have been considerably cheaper for a lot of reasons. But don't think because we vote the way we vote that we're not 100% in alignment with your thoughts. And all I can say is we do the best job we can. And to that person's comment, she has every right, or he, to feel the way she does, and we are her board. You know, I like serving, but if people out there disagree, you know how to do it. Don't vote us back. That's my comment.
It's a little bit different when you're on that side, as I was for years, and you get on this side and you find out things you need to do and should do. As was mentioned earlier, some of the actions that have been done in the past, well, we try to keep it in single digit increases. My deal is I don't look at that. Never ran a business that way. I look at what needs to be done and let the chips fall where they may. Then and only then, if there's a way to shave or cut, we go that route. This year and last year were the first two times I've seen that in the 19, 20 years I've been here, where there is a total regard for the continuity of this entity, the CDD, to make sure it stays healthy, that we have the assets. You wouldn't like it if you didn't have water. You sure as hell wouldn't like it if you didn't have the sewer, the irrigation, all of the things that go with running this utility, which is also a town without a police and a fire department. That's basically what it is. As much as I don't have kids that are using the parks, I pay for it. I pay for it. That's part of being in this country. That's part of being in the country. But we are not going back to the old ways here of, oh, well, we got it at 18%. We can't go over 9. No, we go with what we need to do to keep this thing afloat and going ahead. Not thinking of this year, but thinking of 5, 6, 7, 10 years out of what needs to be done. Is Flavia on? Flavia, comments?
My comments are 100% in line what Bob, Doug, and yourself have mentioned. I don't have anything else to add besides just exactly what you guys say. That's the vision, and we're trying our best, and we do look at it. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I think the next item is the consideration of resolution 2023-29. Is that correct, Tony?
Yes, and that's adopting the budget for fiscal year 2023-24.
You know?
In the version that's adopted, is that the one in the meeting book, Chelsea and Laura?
I think it's page.
I'll make a motion that we adopt version 4 of the budget.
I'll second.
And adopt the resolution?
And adopt the associated resolution 2023-29. Do you include that?
I included that. Yep.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that, Stephen, you're gonna remove those numbers from the
Yeah,
capital part.
as revised.
Yes, as revised by those comments. I think that was the only revisions, was just to correct that capital, but it did not affect the
Did not
calculations.
affect the budget.
No,
That's what I thought.
no. Those are just ancillary reports to support the numbers that were there.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution 2023-29 and the version 4 of the 2024 budget.
As revised. As further revised.
As revised. All in favor, say aye.
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 Bye.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the next resolution is consideration of adoption resolution 2023-30, making a determination of special benefits, imposing special assessments, certifying an assessment roll, providing for amendments to the assessment roll, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date. And this is your assessment adoption resolution to levy and impose the assessments that will fund your budget.
Okay. In the past, there's always been, and I was going to ask this earlier, there's always been a roll A and a B, Steve. Are we just now down to a roll A?
Yeah, there's only a row A.
Only roll A, okay. Do I
Well,
have a
there's
motion?
There's an exhibit A and exhibit B though
Oh,
referenced.
well, there's only one roll.
Okay, well, that's what this says here, but I remember seeing in the past roll A and roll B.
So I guess we would need to correct and revise it.
Well, no, exhibit A is the budget.
Budget, okay, I want to
And
make sure.
then exhibit B is the roll.
Okay, I want to make sure. Okay.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve resolution 2023-30, which is the resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the Service District, making a determination of special benefit and imposing special assessments and certifying an assessment roll, providing for amendments to the assessment roll, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date?
Yes, and the exhibit A and the exhibit B are both voluminous, and they will be attached or.
Will
hyperlinked as
we have
appropriate.
a set here at the office?
Yes.
At the other office.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the other office.
Yes, we
Okay.
have all the,
Thank you.
everything is there.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So
I'll
moved.
second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2023-30. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Now, there are some blanks, I think, in that one. Has somebody got those
Yep.
blanks filled in?
We will get
You will
those.
get
We'll work
those
with
in?
Steven to get those filled in.
Okay, doke. I believe that.
Yeah, the numbers that will be filled in will be those that reflect the adopted budget
Yes,
Correct.
and the adopted assessment roll.
Okay.
and we will get it posted on the website in the next
I would say,
week.
yeah, by the end of next week at the latest, probably Monday. Well, it depends on how long it
And-
takes Steven to give me
In about a week.
Thanks to staff, Stephen, putting this thing
Yeah.
together. Very good job.
You guys
I
do-
guess-
Good job.
I guess, Stephen, do you want to, for the record, indicate what the numbers are in section 2 or not?
I prefer just to get writing
As per the adopted
for
budget.
the document.
Okay, thank you.
Adjournment?
Thank you, everyone.
And this is probably,
Motion.
this year was.
Thank you.
was the
Thanks for
best
joining
budget.
us, Flavia, and good luck down there.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the best budget iteration.